and Google needs that. Because the outcome, if it doesn't, is either the link will not work or it will work much less than if the link actually had this foundation that Google meets or link meets on the actual page that it's pointing at.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Kasiotis, and today I'm very happy and excited to be joined by Rad Paluszak. Rad is a web developer and software architect with 20 years of experience. He has been a technical mastermind in the SEO industry since 2010. Rad helped Matt Diggity run his SEO agency, The Search Initiative, and Matthew Woodward, his search logistics agency. He recently founded Husky Hamster, an outreach link building company. Rad's specializations include international and technical SEO, machine learning and understanding, as well as looking at SEO from business and management perspectives. Rad, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So even though I shared a few things about you and your background, as I do with every guest here at the SaaS SEO, so I would like to know a few more things to hear from you about your story and how you got to the point where you are at today.
Yeah, it's actually one of the jokes. Maybe might not be funny for everyone, but I came up with this for one of the presentations I was doing recently. And actually, I realized that a few years ago, my first website was 18 years old, so basically was of legal age. But now it's actually been almost or just over 21, so it can already drink alcohol in the US. At least in some states. I don't know the jurisdictions that well. But basically, yeah, I've started out very early. I think I was like 14 or 15 building websites. And actually, that's my main background. I was web developer, was learning a lot more about this sort of stuff. And then by accident, I became an SEO. It's actually an interesting story because I went for an interview where the company was advertising they're looking for a junior web developer. But then at the interview, they said to me there was a mix-up. So we're not actually looking for a junior junior web developer. We're actually looking for a junior SEO. And I was like, initially I was like, oh man, so what the hell am I doing here? Should I just leave or what? But then they started talking to me about SEO and pretty much kind of convincing me that it is really close to web development and all the tech stuff. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm bought. I'm in. Yeah, you can count me in. So yeah, that was pretty much 12 and a bit years ago. And I never left ever since. Yet my background still remains in, looking at the code and dealing with this sort of stuff. So I think this also answers your question. If you had one, how did I become a CTO?
But that must have been a great interview, by the way. I mean, to turn you, like you go for one position, one role, and then you get out of the building, like having
with another.
with another. That's interesting. That's something you don't get to hear every day. And
Yeah, it was
so,
pretty funny. Actually, that was because back then, even though SEO, search engine optimization, people knew about it more or less or have heard about it, no one actually was that much into it. So this was actually the company's method for recruitment. They were basically having ads that they're recruiting for junior devs and then kind of converting them during the interview, which worked pretty well for them, essentially.
okay, that was 12 years ago almost, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing, and what are you working on today?
Oh, what am I not working on today? Well, mainly at the moment is overseeing the tech strategy for our clients, helping out our tech guys, as well as the strict CTO work, which is looking at systems. We've actually built a big in-house tool that we use for pretty much all operations related to SEO, link building, and client management. So yeah, that's my areas of focus.
By the way, let me take a step back and say that you are involved in two agencies, right? The first one is the one I mentioned in the introduction, which is Husky Hamster, and the second one is non-agency. Can you speak a bit about those two agencies before we dive into like all the tech, the interesting tech stuff that you do there?
Yeah, correct. So Husky Hamster is purely international link building agency. This is where we work with links, with link strategies and this sort of stuff. And non-agency is international SEO agency. The processes in both agencies are so much different that we basically decided to separate them, and for now it works pretty well.
Okay, I would like to to discuss international link building, but let's do that in a minute. Before that, I mean, it's difficult for me to understand like the need for like a CTO in an agency, because we have a very like traditional idea of what an agency is and how an agency should like work and serve its clients, build its systems, and so on and so forth. So could we dive a bit deeper into that? I mean, what kind of things do you build? What kind of challenges do you encounter while building these things? And why is it important at the end of the day for an agency to have this, take this like more tech approach?
So I think something which will resonate especially with your audience that is revolving around SaaS is one word: scalability. And basically, so my main experience is working with agencies pretty much for 12 years. I think there was a short period of time, like 6 or 8 months, where I worked in-house, but I didn't like it. I need this rush of adrenaline and fast-paced environment to thrive. So I returned back to agencies, and now pretty much all of the agencies we worked with were struggling with scalability, with automation, with being efficient with how they use their time. Okay. And as much as I tried to solve those problems, it wasn't always up to me that something could have been implemented, or at some point there was a decision to basically retract or reverse our way to keep building an internal tool for that was meant to help with operations, and basically go back pretty much to spreadsheets, which I think a lot of agencies are based on at the moment. So me and my business partner started Husky Hamster initially, because we were actually thinking that link building agency, being a more niche agency than an SEO agency, would be easier for us to manage from scalability systems perspective, processes, people, and clients. And it was true, but as the saying goes, never say no to money. We basically discovered that the rule is as follows: not every website that needs SEO needs links, but pretty much every website that needs links also needs SEO, or at least there's way more websites that that are already doing links that would then need SEO on top of that. And we realized that basically with the orders we were getting from our clients. So the order, for example, comes in, we look at the anchor text that they requested, and let's say some links are meant to point at the homepage, and we look at the homepage, and the homepage page title says homepage. Okay, which obviously like straight up blur, kind of like makes me almost blind and shines at me as an SEO mistake, because I already know that this isn't optimized. And then we were like reaching out to those clients and saying, hey, so you're building those links, but if they don't have optimization on the page, then some of their value is just wasted. So why do that? And since we were doing that anyway, we said to ourselves, hey man, let's just do a full-on agency and just offer our services where those clients that come through link building, we can tell they need that. So yeah, when we started all that, we basically focused on initially solving issues that all of these agencies that we worked with had. Okay, and that mainly revolved around scalability and company organization processes and things like that. And we started off pretty much from scratch. We started building our own internal tool that was meant to help us work with link building. I already had experience with that because we've built one for the previous agency that I was an employee of. Therefore, it was easy for me to redesign, learn on the mistakes that I made previously, and obviously build it from scratch again with our internal dev team. And just regarding your question, you said that a lot of agencies or a lot of people would struggle to see where a CTO role comes in at an SEO or link building agency. But I think even fewer people would be like, would understand where does the whole internal dev team comes in at an agency, because I don't know that many agencies who actually build their own 4 people senior dev team to just work on their systems. And we started with that, and that's allowed us to solve so many issues that other agencies are probably struggling with. And it was good because, first of all, when we work with other agencies, because we work as partner, where they outsource work to us, we just come in and we straight up solve their problems. We know what their problems are, and we know that we already fixed them. So they have a very solid partner to work with. And then secondly, as an agency that is live for 14, 15, 16 months, something like that, we're already doing really well. Financially, we don't have a big team, so that solves our problem with managing the team. And the more people you have, it gets more difficult and out of hand sometimes if you don't have already processes in place. But because we managed to automate a lot of tasks and have huge hugely scale our operation. We don't even need that many people to run it. So yeah, and I find it a great achievement of myself, primarily, because as a CTO, that was my job. Okay, and just last thing, because I think this almost turned into a monologue. And sorry about that, George, but at pretty much every agency, management requires people to try to optimize their work, try to be more efficient, automate whatever they can. But if they don't have an internal dev team or a CTO or someone who's like, I don't know, an operations manager who would be responsible for actually finding those little optimizations and solving them for people at the global globally for the whole company, then this is where they're missing out, and this is where also my role comes in.
Can I ask the follow-up question? I mean, what are some practical applications of that? I mean, what can Husky Hamster can do that a link building agency that still uses like Google Sheets can't do? Like very practically, it could either be connected to the value like that the clients get and experience, like a deliverable, for example, or it could be something internal that the client, it's not part of the final outcome, but it really helps us be more efficient, like scale things up, move faster without needing like to increase the headcount and so on.
Sure. So, and this is, by the way, as far as we know, our unique selling points as well. So first of all, we monitor our clients' links. And what I mean by that, on a weekly basis, we check if that link is still there, if the anchor text is still there, if nothing changed around that link that Google will disregard it, for example. And if something happens to that link through a period of time, we would not even just be like, oh, hey, client, your link is gone, so buy another one. We would actually replace that link. We do that automatically. Well, not the replacement part isn't automatic, but the monitoring is automatic. And I don't know any other agency that would do that for the clients. So basically, the value here for the client is if you buy a link from us, it stays there, basically.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't, we know, and we will report on that, and we will replace that.
Yeah,
for free, like free of charge.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing is we also keep an eye if the link gets indexed, because as some of you and your audience will know, Google has to index a link in order to see it, basically, and for this link to actually bring you any value. And if it doesn't happen, then obviously this link is worthless. It's like shouting in the forest, "Hey, I want higher position for a certain keyword." It just doesn't work. Okay, so we also automatically monitor if those links get indexed, and if they don't get indexed since the publication for a period of I think it's now 6 or 8 weeks. I can't remember exactly, because this is a little bit of time we need to give Google in order to notice that link, because Google obviously is constantly flooded with new content, and it's a bit slow with indexation. But if that link doesn't get indexed in the initial time frame, we also replace it, because we know it's a waste of money for the clients. And this is by far also something that I don't see, or I haven't heard any other agency do, because agencies, in fact, most of link building agencies, at least, bear in mind those that I haven't heard of who are doing it, they don't care if the link gets indexed or no. Okay, their job ends at the moment of this link going live, this article going live. And whether Google notices it or no, they don't really pay that much attention.
Can I ask something though? How do you know when a link gets indexed if we are not talking about a new page where you assume that, okay, new page, Google is going to discover it, it's going to crawl it, it's going to give it a place in the index, and so on and so forth. If we are talking about like a page that already exists, and there is a link inserted in that page, or there is a content update, and in the context of an update, there is a new link on the page. My question is, how do you know for pages that are not new that the link is indexed?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because obviously when it's a new content, it's easy. You just check site search or whatever in Google, and then you see if that new content has popped up or not. For the old content, where you're doing linking session, we look at Google Cache. And some people might say it's not very reliable and so on and so forth. But as long as Google's cache includes that link, then we can claim that Google has seen it, because it's cached it. So it's seen it, and then it's probably just a matter of time before it processes it, because the whole crawling / indexing part, it's actually a bit complicated. Google's process at the moment looks at as follows. So first, Google crawls a page, but it doesn't necessarily mean, and this is why also, even if we work with websites closely and we could include on their website something that tracks if Google has crawled that page or not, we decided to not go this route, because a crawled page doesn't mean that it's already been indexed. Okay, so crawling is like just a discovery stage of new content that Google has. But then there's the second stage, which is indexing, and this is where Google actually pulls whatever discovered content it's seen, pulls it into the index. Then comes the rendering stage, because Google initially wants to save their resources, and it only pulls in the text version of the page, so basically the pure HTML, and only during the rendering phase they pull in all the JavaScript and other stuff, and then they render the page to see how it actually looks like. And then finally, after those three stages, so crawling, indexing, and rendering, somewhere during that time, after indexing, rendering, or a bit later, happens the moment when Google actually recalculates the changes and shows the effect of whatever it is you've done on a page to affect your ranking in a positive, negative, or neutral way. So and that last bit about recalculating and reassessing where you're meant to be ranking is like, not, Google isn't very open about that. So we don't really know when that happens exactly. It might be right after indexing, it might be later. I think it would also depend on the page and on some other factors, but let's not go too deep into that.
I would like to shift gears a bit and discuss something that fascinates me. I don't know many things about that, but this is obviously one of the reasons why we are having this discussion, because you guys are experts in it, and it's international link building. Okay, I know international SEO. When I hear of international link building, I think of a website like Canva, for example, that has different versions of their websites in all the countries and languages they operate in, and the need for building links from websites in that country, in that language, back to their like localized, pages, in order to help them, like, with all the benefits that links come with. Okay, is that right? Is that kind of a fair, let's say, or an accurate depiction of what international link building is? I would like to hear from you how you perceive it.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I think this is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is basically, as far as I know, or just one of the top of my head, link provider that has a bigger variety of countries that they cover. Most of link building agencies either work only within their own language. Like majority would obviously be in English, because it apparently so much of the internet is in English language. Obviously, there are local providers who, for example, work only with German links or only with French or Spanish links. But for us, international means we work with a lot of different languages. At the moment, I think we can support 7 or 8 languages, which is pretty easy for the clients to use us as a one-stop shop, regardless of what their website's language is, if it's just French or if it's French and English and something else, for instance. So that's my definition of international link building. By the way, the case of Canva that you mentioned, I was actually recently analyzing their progress in terms of SEO, and for them, when it comes to link building, it's super easy, because they are a well-known brand. They would get links from many sources without even caring that much about building them or gaining them. They just get them naturally. However, and this is especially true for startup companies, whichever niche they are in, let's say for this sake, SaaS startup companies, or some sort of AI tool, because these are on the huge rise at the moment. If you're just starting out, no one knows you. Okay, your website is new, it has no history, no one's ever heard of it. So this is when it becomes difficult for you to get some links naturally, at least. And yeah, this is when agencies like ours, Husky Hamster, come in to help you with all that.
Can I ask you something that I genuinely want to know? You currently support 7, 8 languages and countries, and I assume that this number will continue to grow, and you will add more countries, more languages, and so on. Do you find any differences between the people in different countries you reach out to, based on the different cultural backgrounds, the maturity in terms of internet usage, or sophistication around what you're trying to do right now? And I'm asking this question because I think of a person from the US, for example. I'm not, I don't want to generalize it, but I think that people from the US are way ahead in terms of their understanding of how internet works. And I think about a person from the US, if you reach out to them, would you be able to include this link in your blog post? They know what you're doing, okay? As opposed to someone from, for example, from Germany, say, or I don't know, another European country. They may be, what is this request now? Is it something I should be concerned of, or is it something I can do it right now? And for you, this may be a very important link, So my question is, do you see any differences in the in all these different countries that you build links from?
Well, man, definitely. And that's actually something like the mentality differences. Let's generally let's call it that as a general term. They're crazy huge, honestly. And I might mention something which is a little bit off topic, or at least slightly off topic, but so yeah, feel free to cut it out if you like. But when you think about a website from just building a website perspective, web development, okay, if you have the same principle towards your audience for I don't know, Polish language, English, French, Arabic, you would be losing a lot of users because they just won't like it. There are cultural differences, there are language differences, the mentality, this different, or at least slightly different ways to approach, for example, conversion rate optimization or user experience when you have to deal with people from different countries. Some are a bit stricter and would prefer very simple interface, for example, and some others would like to have everything, beautiful, glossy and all that. And as much as that would go to designing an interface or website or whatever other app you're thinking about, very similar things come into play when you're dealing with link building and when you outreach to people. So what you mentioned with audience or our contacts from the US or from other countries that have websites in English, that's very true. And actually, I remember when we reached out to some contacts, well, some websites, not contacts, because they became contacts afterwards, in Romania, and we said, hey, so we saw your website. There's an article we can give you. Okay, would you be willing to publish it? And they were like, how much do I pay you? Not, you pay me for this publication with a link, but they were like, oh, how much do you want for this article? And we were like, nothing, it's free, man. So yeah, the differences are like that. Some people from different countries would come across as rude also in email communication because they're just so strict to the point. They're like, yeah, so we put together a nice pitch where we say, oh, this is what we researched and stuff like that, and through the pitch we're trying to encourage them to either publish our content and insert the link, or maybe just to start talking with us occasionally. And some countries, some residents would be like, too long, didn't read, just tell me what the hell you want, man. Something like that. So yeah, the differences are there definitely. We're seeing that, for example, when we deal with French journalists, occasionally we need to deal with them slightly different. They look at they have to have everything, like literally everything lined out for them. We have to say basically everything and stuff like that, and explain to them where this comes from and things, because they have to cross-reference, fact check everything, and they wouldn't just take our word for it when there's some statistic in the content, for example. Obviously, which is a very very obvious thing to also mention when you're dealing with foreign contacts. You gotta take into consideration the time difference, and that's a big thing when we're sometimes working with Australian websites, because when we send them an email at the end of our day, okay, they respond with a quick question, for instance, but we've already gone home, and so they're waiting an entire day for our response. And sometimes let's say the lead of this potential website goes cold because they just got offended with us not answering them in a timely manner, if it was just kind of like a silly question of yes or no type. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that, and sometimes people are like, yeah, like I said, very surprised that you're reaching out to them, and they're like a bit suspicious. So why do you want this why do you want to give it to me? Where's the catch, for example? And I remember we've worked with a few websites from South America, in this case, trying to get some Spanish links from Argentina, for example, and they were like, yeah, I don't trust you. I don't really know who you are, and you're just some random company from pretty much across the globe. So I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable, posting any real content. Maybe that it's got a virus or something. Which these things are obviously crazy, but they happen. It's fun. Let's put it this way: it's a lot of fun, a lot of experience, and a lot of discovery of how these different markets, how these different audiences / contacts work.
It's good to know, because that's also something I was, I had in my mind for a while now, and I wanted to ask this question. Now, as I hear it, what you do includes a lot of outreach and communications, emails, and so on and so forth. I've been hearing a lot lately that from, other content marketing agencies that also do link building, or purely link building agencies, that they kind of shift away from manual outreach and focus on different strategies. For example, passive link acquisition for link building. First of all, do you think that this is something that actually happens, or is it just my observation? And if yes, why do you think that happened? Is it because, for example, manual outreach becomes more and more difficult because in mainly in English-speaking countries, people are just fed up. Like, I can't, like my inbox is going to explode. I can't read any new emails from recipients I don't know. Why do you think that happens?
That's a good question. Also, you're shooting me here with very good questions. So good job on preparation. I think it boils down to a few things. But before I start talking about them, let's address an elephant in the room. Okay, most of the people that you reach out to, obviously, I know I mentioned that some of them are surprised of some of them want to offer us to pay us for content. But let's be honest, the majority of people that we reach out to, they want money. Okay, some of them have almost automated responses with a bloody PayPal link that they just throw at us with a certain amount that's already prepared for selling links. Okay, and I'm not gonna lie, we sometimes acquire links through this method where someone wants money and we just pay them. Okay, I know it's against, it might be against Google guidelines, but it's an exchange for content, for publication. It's like a fee that you sometimes are paying and would pay to, I don't know, BBC, for example. At least that's the way I see it. And the thing is, we don't really pressurize them that much. If they change the link to a no follow, what we would do, we would just try to, because that's what Google guidelines say. Okay, so we're not explicitly saying, oh, this link needs to be do follow. Okay, although if that link is a no follow, we would probably try to replace it with something else. Okay, so this is how we're not directly breaking Google guidelines, because even though we pay them the publication fee, we leave it up to them if they want to leave it to follow or no follow. Okay, so it's not influenced. The thing is, though, so with that's we've seen a trend where the prices that they ask for are increasing. Okay, so link building, it just starts getting a little bit more expensive. And I know there was a research done by, I think, Joshua Hardwick from Ahrefs, where he said, oh, only like 20% of websites that I reached out to wanted money for this. But he was probably reaching out either with his own name, so people know him, or with Ahrefs brand or something that people know, so they would be more willing to give him free links if you're reaching out. And I dare you and your audience to try just email a few companies for your websites and try to ask them for links. They will either ignore you or ask for money, and very occasionally they would be like, oh yeah, sure, give me content. So yeah, why don't you do that test? I would be curious to hear feedback. But overall, that element is getting more expensive. But another thing is, which you also need to consider, and this is where I sometimes why I am sometimes baffled with some people on the internet saying, oh, you can't really place a price on the link, or if you do, then you're already against Google guidelines. But the thing is, right, for example, in our case as an agency, we have company overheads, we have salaries, we have time and resources that we put into securing that link. And all of these things, even if we don't consider, or we only get free links, which a lot of links that we get are free, all of the other things actually add up. Okay, and we as an agency, which is pretty lean, we can measure all of these things as well, and therefore, that price of the link that we give you is all of those things considered. So it's not that we sell you an individual link; we sell you a service that consists or leads to getting and securing that link to you. Okay, and it's to simplify it, it's exchanging money of our clients for our time and final result, which is the link. Okay, and that's like any other service works. But again, going back to what I was saying, why outreach might be less and less popular, obviously it also takes time, and there's a lot of outreach companies, there's a lot of freelancers doing outreach, and I think companies are just getting fed up. Like you mentioned, my inbox is so full with outreach requests that I don't even want to look through it. Companies just and site owners are just getting fed up with that, and they just start ignoring those requests, and obviously that leads to, again, increased costs, because if we, out of 100 emails, you used to get, let's say, 20 responses, and now we get 10, for instance, then obviously we have to send 200 emails to get the same number of responses, or to secure the same number of links. Okay, obviously these numbers are just made up for illustration, but it's all getting more expensive. There are ways to secure links, like you mentioned, that are more passive with content. I've even heard people secure links with producing great content and then using Facebook ads to promote that content and targeting it at journalists to pick up. But in our case, we found our sweet spot, and we are definitely scalable. That outreach works best. It's best scalable. We have control over and certainty of the result, at least in this case. And as much as I will admit that we are also exploring enriching our services with some other types of link acquisition type, like Haro, for example, or something similar to Haro, where you basically have a platform where you get requests from reporters, and then you pitch them with your answers or with whatever it is they need. We find it so far, we're still thinking how to optimize it, but we find it so far very unpredictable on one hand, and pretty much difficult to scale at the agency level. So yeah, I think it boils down to what you're good at and what floats your boat.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great answer and way to put it. I would like to discuss something that I see as a problem, let's say, when it comes to link building. I have many friends who own agencies or run businesses, who buy services from agencies. And a common like pattern slash problem, especially when it comes to link building, is tying link building back to business outcomes. For example, every link we build back to this page results in 2 times what we spent to build this link, or contributes to generating X revenue. Why do you think it's so difficult to tie link building to business outcomes? And like, how do you do that? Because apart from one piece of content I read a while back, when it comes to how you can take a BI approach to link building, I haven't seen anything like worth reading or following that adds up to the discussion around the ROI of link building. And I would like to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you gave me an idea for a content series, because we could actually produce some content around business outcomes and ROI connected to links. But yeah, food for thought for me. Great feedback. Anyway, so first of all, and you remember how I was mentioning that we did initially work only with the link building agency, and then we said to ourselves that so many clients actually needed SEO that we decided to also start the full SEO agency, and this is, I think, the main answer to why link building is so difficult to actually put into business terms, because link building is only one of the elements of online marketing strategy. Okay, let's say, for example, you're selling, you have red addresses category on your website, and you want to build links that mention red addresses in the anchor text, because obviously this gives Google context. But then if the page title and some other like H1 and some other elements on that page don't even mention red addresses, Google will struggle to get the corresponding relevancy just from links. And Google needs that because the outcome, if it doesn't, is either the link will not work, or it will work much less than if the link actually had this foundation that Google meets, or link meets on the actual page that it's pointing at. And obviously without that, you can be spending $10,000s on link building to an unoptimized website, and the ROI will be none or negative. But then you optimize the website, invest like 5K in the optimization. Sometimes it doesn't even take that much, and 5K is enough to optimize the website to enough for Google to start making sense out of it, and you can spend 2K on links, and then you may see some ROI. Okay, so I think the main problem is that link building is just one of the elements that go under the SEO or online marketing, if you want to look at it in a broader context perspective. Although, and this is like a little addition to what we're doing, what we also do, and we do that without our clients even knowing. Every single link that we build, we actually rank check that anchor text on that page that the link is leading to, or the client wants to build to, and we check the positions for that keyword, that is the anchor text, every week for an extended period of time. And that gives us an idea, first of all, whether the links that we build work, if they give you a pop, so to speak, in rankings. And obviously this is good for us, because we can then say, oh, we can obviously go to the client and say, hey, so all of these links that you bought from us, they actually work, and your rankings have gone up that much for these keywords. But secondly, we can also remove, let's say, toxic publishers or publishers that whose websites don't work for our clients out of our contacts, right? So if we see that the website has no impact on, let's say, 50% of the keywords that we're placing in the content, we would just not use it anymore, because what's the point to use something that doesn't work? Okay, and this is like another way of us making sure that the quality of links that we provide is actually top notch.
That makes sense. And I mean, it makes sense. It's just a part of the equation, and it's not like the end all be all. It's not like it's just links. It's links and content and user experience and like design and so many other things that affect, let's say, how people perceive like the experience they had with the website, and to extend that, how Google, like perceives and what signals it gets from the experience people had. Now, I would like to start wrapping things up, and I have, one more question for you. What do you think of Google's comments lately on the decreasing value of link building and links? Do you see this as something like viable? Google can actually determine the value of a page without taking into as much account as it used to, like the links that this page has? Or is it just something that Google has to say for all the bad actors? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is a podcast episode with John Miller, and I actually used a quote from him to put something in perspective during one of my recent presentations, because in that same context, he actually said that yes, links are losing value, and Google will over time start treating them with or trust attribute less influence to links in the algorithm. But then he also mentioned that they will not be as strong as they are at the moment. Okay, and that was something that encouraged me to, or actually confirmed something that me and a lot of other SEOs keep seeing, that links are still a very, very, very strong factor in the algorithm. So on one hand, they're saying they're planning on something. On the other hand, they're saying that at the moment, links are very important. Okay, so that's one thing to bear in mind. The other thing is to bear in mind is, and I think this is something very important to mention, is they said it before ChatGPT came into play and was released, and everyone went crazy with that. Okay, and I think Google is in a big pickle now, or has a big pickle to deal with in terms of AI content and ChatGPT and all of that being freely accessible. Or if ChatGPT will become commercial and we will have to pay for it, it's still going to be much cheaper than just human generated content. And I think using it with human overseeing it is the way forward, and allows you to produce a lot of content. And now, if you think about it, internet is a huge place, okay, and it's full of content, and Google is openly saying that the recent problems they had with indexation were because they were dealing with a problem of duplicate content, and they're trying not to index that much content because a lot of it is duplicated. I think they even gave a figure of how much of the internet is duplicated. It was like 60 or 70%. I can't remember, but it was pretty high. So obviously they have to deal with with recognizing duplicate content and dealing with that poor quality content as well. And this is why they're indexing less things at the moment. And now if you think about it, with AI generated content, which I don't have to even predict, I know it's going to be huge this year. It's everyone who can just sit down and think about it doesn't need encouragement to say that it's going to be huge this year. There's so many predictions and everyone says the same thing. So if you think about it, Google is going to be flooded, absolutely flooded with content. It's probably going to be trillions and trillions of words on the internet that's gonna be pumped out this year. So yeah, if Google has already had some problems, although they're trying to address them with helpful content updates when it comes to content, but nothing is gonna address that huge flood of content this year. So if they can't reliably address content issue or overproductivity of content, what are they going to use to distinguish good websites from bad websites? Probably links, right? Because technical stuff, it's, in my opinion, more of binary. You either fixed something or no. There's obviously things like information architecture and topical clusters and all of these things, but these heavily rely on content. And if you get so much new content, you're gonna get it lost. You're gonna make mistakes as well. So then they'll have to use links as the signal that differentiates some websites in terms of the content. So I think what they said is true, and we've seen over the years, but we're not talking 2 years, we're talking like 10 years time, that links were way more important back 10 years ago than they are now. But I don't think it's because Google has planned crackdown on links. I think it's because Google is educating people more on how to build good websites, and people actually build good websites nowadays and produce much better content that they used to 10 years ago. And Google algorithm got much smarter at distinguishing the quality content from shit content. Sorry, I don't know if you should, sorry about that. Just beep it out. But overall, so yeah, we can say that links were losing on their importance for whatever reasons that I just mentioned now. Although Google said that in the context that they're planning maybe something, or it just insinuated they're planning on doing something with links, because they know that people produce a lot of shitty links too, right? But they said that before ChatGPT, so I think they really need to go back to their algorithms and think about what to do with this problem now, because it most definitely is a problem for Google.
Yeah, let's leave it there. I think that this is an optimistic way of seeing the future for link building. Rad, thank you very much. This has been very educational for me personally, and I hope for our audience. Last question I have for you: where can people find out more about you and get in touch?
Definitely at both websites, huskyhamster.com or non.agency. I'm also on Twitter. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions. I'm friendly, so don't worry.
That's great. Rad, thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Cheers.
Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.